Hi, this is New Time on Silkway TV channel. We introduce you with the most visible news and important events that happened throughout this week in Kazakhstan and Central Asia. More details on politics, economy, social and cultural life with opinions from the most recognizable experts of Kazakhstan and world. I'm Dorian Sagulov, and this is what you'll see today. President Xi Jinping has arrived in Kazakhstan for an official visit and the second Central Asia-China summit. Energy, economy, culture, what was agreed this week in Astana. The 51st G7 summit has wrapped up in Canada as world leaders tackled global security and economic challenges. But since tensions have risen in the Middle East, what did they agree on? From Texas with trends, Kazakh-American blogger Sayat Nokerban joins us in the studio. How he's making Central Asia trend in the US. Let's start tonight with the official agenda. Chinese President Xi Jinping has paid his official visit to Astana, where he was greeted on the tarmac by Kazakhstan's President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev. President Xi's plane was escorted by Kazakhstan's air defense fighter jets as it entered the country's airspace. The parties once again affirmed their commitment to deepen ties, particularly in economic and energy sectors. So, what exactly was on the agenda this time around between Astana and Beijing? Details in the following report.
This visit marked the 8th meeting between the leaders of Kazakhstan and China and President Xi's 6th trip to Astana. To welcome the high-profile guest, a guard of honor lines the red carpet at the foot of the aircraft. Inside the airport terminal, the Chinese president was greeted by children, offering warm words in both Kazakh and Chinese. The gesture clearly left an impression as Xi Jinping praised their preparation and smiled throughout the encounter.
Құрметті Сиятап, сіздің Астанаға келгеніңізге өте қуаныштымыз.
习爷您好，欢迎您再次来到阿斯塔纳。
你看他说的多好啊，他们两个。Как хорошо они говорят по-китайски.
After the formal welcome, President Xi's motorcade made its way to the Akorda Presidential Palace for high-level talks. In his opening remarks, President Tokayev described the relationship between Kazakhstan and China as entering a new golden era. He pointed to deepening cooperation across international and regional platforms and placed particular focus on joint efforts in nuclear energy. Kazakhstan, he said, views China's CNNC as a trusted strategic partner in the country's push to develop nuclear power.
We have made the decision to build several nuclear power plants in Kazakhstan, at least 2 or 3. Relevant work is already underway to involve major companies in this important project. The Nuclear Energy Agency of the Republic of Kazakhstan has been established. I would like to emphasize that we consider the Chinese company CNNC a reliable strategic partner for the construction of nuclear power plants. It is internationally recognized for its high level of expertise and will undoubtedly secure a strong position in our market.
Xi Jinping in turn expressed his gratitude to President Tokayev for the warm welcome on Kazakh soil. He noted that under his leadership, Kazakhstan has embarked on a path of national renewal and continues to achieve new milestones in its development.
Relations between China and Kazakhstan have stood the test of a changing global landscape and continue to develop dynamically. This has been made possible not only by our geographic proximity and centuries-old friendship, but also by the natural need for the joint development of our two countries. The successful implementation of a number of socially significant projects is already bringing tangible benefits to the peoples of China and Kazakhstan. I'm ready to work with you to steadily strengthen the friendship between China and Kazakhstan and to further advance our multifaceted cooperation.
At the conclusion of the talks, the two sides signed 24 agreements spanning nearly every sector of the economy, among them deals at the intergovernmental level aimed at promoting and protecting mutual investments, along with new frameworks for technical and economic cooperation. Thus, the agreements reflect a deepening partnership, one that positions Kazakhstan as a key regional player in China's broader strategy across Central Asia. Marjan Samigolina, New Time.
Relations between Central Asian countries and China have reached the level of lasting strategic partnership, declared President of Kazakhstan Kassym-Jomart Tokayev as he opened the second Central Asia-China Summit in Astana. In response, Xi Jinping announced a grant of 1.5 billion yuan, roughly $209 million, to support prosperity across the region. President Xi also called on neighboring states to work together in countering modern threats and strengthening regional security cooperation. More on the key statements and outcomes from the week's most important political event in our next report. The first Central Asia-China Summit was held in May 2023 in Xi'an, where participating nations began shaping the framework for cooperation within the C5+1 format, laying the groundwork for future engagements. Since then, economic and trade ties between China and Central Asia have reached new heights. The long-anticipated China-Kyrgyzstan-Uzbekistan railway project has entered the construction preparation phase, marking a major step toward enhancing regional connectivity and linking the Asia-Pacific with Europe. In Uzbekistan's Sirdarya region, a 1,500-megawatt gas-fired power plant has officially come online. Meanwhile, Kazakhstan is advancing a wide array of joint projects with China in energy, infrastructure and technology. President Tokayev highlighted these achievements in his opening address, officially launching the second summit.
The combined GDP of Central Asia countries is steadily approaching $500 billion. Over the past 5 years, inter-regional trade has grown significantly, surpassing $10 billion. Last year, China accounted for around 40% of the region's total foreign trade, reaching a record $95 billion, with Kazakhstan contributing 46% of that volume.
Что составило рекордные $95 миллиардов. 46% данного показателя приходится на Казахстан.
Chinese investments, with cumulative volume exceeding $26 billion, have played a significant role in Kazakhstan's economic growth, according to President Tokayev. Around 5,000 enterprises with Chinese capital are currently operating successfully in the country. The president emphasized that the potential for cooperation remains vast and named energy cooperation as a key pillar of regional stability.
Central
Asia holds 20% of the world's uranium reserves, over 17% of its oil, 7% of natural gas, as well as substantial deposits of rare earth elements. In other words, the potential for cooperation in this sector is immense. Given China's extensive and successful experience in nuclear energy, we are keen to develop a sustainable partnership in this strategic field. We will begin preparations to sign a formal agreement in the very near future.
Будем готовиться к подписанию соглашения в самое ближайшее время.
Amid growing geopolitical tensions and confrontation between major global blocs, traditional supply chains, so vital for both Central Asia and China, are being disrupted. In this context, ensuring reliable trade routes becomes essential. That's why President Tokayev has proposed the joint creation of a new cargo terminal on the Caspian Sea in partnership with China.
In 2024, the total volume of freight shipments from China via Central Asian countries exceeded 211,000 containers. To enhance this appeal of the Trans-Caspian route, we are taking systemic measures to modernize and digitalize Caspian Sea ports, build cargo terminals, and launch domestic shipbuilding. We propose considering the establishment of a joint cargo terminal with China at the port of Kuruk on the Caspian.
Предлагаем рассмотреть вопрос создания совместного с Китаем грузового терминала в порту Kuruk на Каспии.
The president also praised the growing cultural and humanitarian ties between the peoples of Central Asia and China. He highlighted the opening of joint cultural centers and the development of tourism as key steps in this direction. According to Kazakh tourism, the number of Chinese visitors to Kazakhstan has increased ninefold over the past 5 years, surpassing 650,000 in the past year alone. On 31st May 2025, the first international tourist train from Xi'an to Central Asia arrived at Almaty's railway station.
We welcome the launch of the first tourist train from Xi'an to Almaty. This event, held as part of the China Tourism Year in Kazakhstan, vividly embodies the spirit of the ancient Silk Road, a route that for centuries facilitated the exchange of goods and ideas across Eurasia.
The second summit concluded with a strong push toward deeper regional cooperation. Summing up the results, Sun Weidong, Secretary General of the Central Asia-China Secretariat, said the leaders held in-depth discussions and reached a number of concrete agreements to advance collaboration under the multilateral format.
深入交换意见。
At the summit, we adopted an action plan for the high-quality implementation of the Belt and Road Initiative between China and Central Asia, as well as measures to ease mutual travel and a memorandum on strengthening green investment in the extractive sector. In total, 12 multilateral cooperation documents were signed, along with 5 agreements to establish sister city ties.
One of the summit's most consequential outcomes was the signing of the Astana Declaration and the Treaty on Eternal Friendship, Good Neighborliness and Cooperation. President Kassym-Jomart stressed the importance of developing a long-term strategy for the Central Asia-China format over the next 5 years for solidifying both sides' commitment to deepening comprehensive partnership. The next summit will be held in China in 2027. Daurian Isagulov, New Time. Astana has hosted the first regional energy forum, Power Central Asia plus China, held on the sidelines of the Central Asia-China Summit. At the heart of discussions is the transition to a green economy, technology localization, sustainable energy investment and deeper scientific cooperation. A total of 8 agreements were signed between ministries, state corporations and major energy companies. Among the key milestones, a framework agreement with Power China to establish a decarbonization fund, launch a research center and localize production of equipment. Particular focus was placed on renewables. China Energy is building the Sauron solar power plant with battery storage in the Turkestan region, while CNC ECI plans to construct a coal chemistry plant. Among the largest joint ventures, CNPC and Kazmunaygas are expanding the Shymkent oil refinery from 6 to 12 million tons per year. Meanwhile, geological exploration has begun at the northern one site with full upfront funding provided by a Chinese investor. Financing for new initiatives will be secured through China Construction Bank in partnership with Kazakh Gas.
We are also working on expanding the Kazakhstan-China oil pipeline. We see great potential in hydrogen energy. On the sidelines of the forum, commercial agreements are being signed, including a power purchase deal for the Sauron solar power plant with storage to be built in the Turkestan region.
Cultural diplomacy and joint media initiatives are also reaching a new level. Astana has hosted the China Central Asia Humanitarian Exchange Forum, co-organized by the TV and radio complex of the President of Kazakhstan and China Media Group. The event brought together representatives from 6 countries across the region, from ministries of culture to heads of leading media organizations. In a welcome message, Kassym-Jomart described culture as a golden bridge between people. Among the key outcomes, the launch of the initiative to strengthen media cooperation between China and Central Asia, the debut of several co-produced television programs, and the conclusion of the Central Asia Expedition media project. The focus now extends beyond content exchange towards technological collaboration, professional training. Organizers and participants say these efforts will help further strengthen trust and mutual understanding between nations.
I think the major ideas I would like to share from this forum is that China and Central Asian countries, particularly Kazakhstan, are working together more closely than ever. I believe that it is the responsibility of the journalists like us to continue to transfer these ideas to the rest of the world, symbolizing the friendship and cooperation being enhanced in the years to come.
Meanwhile, Russia intends to expand its energy cooperation with Kazakhstan, including joint access to third country markets. This announcement came from Russian President Vladimir Putin during a meeting with heads of international news agencies at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. Answering the question voiced by Askar Jaldinov, deputy director of the TV and radio complex of the President of Kazakhstan, President Putin emphasized that both countries maintain a special allied relationship and noted that Kazakhstan is a member of key integration platforms such as the CSTO, the Eurasian Economic Union and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, all of which contribute to strengthening bilateral cooperation.
У нас с Казахстаном особые отношения, это очевидно, все хорошо понимают, это у нас союзнические отношения.
We have a special relationship with Kazakhstan. That's obvious and well understood by everyone. These are truly allied relations in the most direct sense of the word. Our shared history, our time as part of a single state, and the vast number of interpersonal and humanitarian ties between our peoples all carry great significance. Kazakhstan is also a member of the CSTO, our defense alliance, and a member of our economic union. We cooperate with Kazakhstan within the SCO and other international organizations as well.
Kazakhstan's critical mineral wealth is stepping into the global spotlight, and Washington is taking a notice about it, said Miraz Zhimbayev, advisor to the chairman for international affairs at Maksut Narikbayev University, commenting on Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Kazakhstan Murat Nurtleev's first official visit to the US and meeting with the Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Let me remind you that as a result of their talks, both sides pledged to deepen economic ties with rare earth elements and uranium at the center of the conversation. Zhimbayev in this regard noted that as AI and tech industries drive global demand, countries rich in rare earth elements like Kazakhstan are becoming increasingly strategic. The US, he added, currently lists 50 priority critical elements, and Kazakhstan holds confirmed reserves of 21 of them, including uranium, which already supplies 40% of US domestic needs. According to the expert, these developments signal not only a deepening of economic cooperation, but also the emergence of a new strategic agenda for both countries.
The rise of critical elements or critical materials in international affairs means, first of all, for Kazakhstan, but not for Central Asia, because Kazakhstan is number one according to concrete material resources. For Kazakhstan and US relations, it means that we're going to have even more strong American economic presence here. We're going to have more comprehensive foreign direct investment from America, from American firms and corporations. It means we're going to have a new driver for our economic development in terms of extraction and rest of the physical, technical, chemical processes to work with that materials and exports not just raw materials, but some more advanced products, and not only to American market, but everywhere in the world.
Also this week, the 51st Group of Seven summit was held in Alberta, gathering leaders of the world's most developed economies under Canada's presidency. The high-level meeting focused on addressing key global challenges, including geopolitical instability, energy security and the transition to digital and green technologies. In opening remarks, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney emphasized the need for unity and global cooperation amid rising geopolitical and economic challenges.
We have to change with the times and to build a better world. And some of you, such as you, Mr. President, have anticipated these massive changes and are taking bold measures to address them. All of us around this table are reinforcing our militaries and security services for the new world. But we all know that there can be no security without economic prosperity, and no prosperity without resilience. And in a world where shocks flow across the borders, that resilience comes from cooperation that starts around this table.
The summit was marked by an early departure by US President Donald Trump, who left before the final day's sessions. Despite this, G7 leaders reached a series of important agreements. The summit concluded with 6 joint declarations focused on strengthening supply chains for critical minerals, ensuring safe development of AI, enhancing quantum innovation, boosting coordinated disaster response, protecting national sovereignty, and tackling transnational smuggling. Canada also announced the launch of the Critical Minerals Production Alliance, aimed at securing essential resources for future industries in partnership with like-minded nations.
We might not agree on absolutely every issue, but where we will cooperate, we will make an enormous difference for our citizens and for the world, and bring the next era of prosperity, I hope, to the benefit of those we serve.
Turning to international agenda, tensions continue to escalate in the rapidly developing military conflict between Israel and Iran. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz announced that he had ordered intensified strikes on strategic targets inside Iran. The Israel Defense Forces have reportedly carried out airstrikes on the centrifuge production facilities used for uranium enrichment, as well as missile manufacturing plants. According to the Israeli military, the targets included weapons factories producing raw materials and components for surface-to-surface missiles. Iranian media report that among the sites hit was Imam Hossein University in Tehran. In response, Iran has for the first time used its Sejil medium-range ballistic missile against Israel. There have been no immediate reports of casualties or damage. Let me remind you that Israel launched a military operation against Iran in the early hours of 13 June, targeting nuclear facilities, military bases, and Iranian army personnel. Israeli authorities justified the strikes by citing Tehran's alleged dangerous progress toward developing a nuclear weapon. Iran has rejected the accusations of pursuing a nuclear bomb and, in response, fired hundreds of ballistic missiles at Israeli territory. According to the United States Office of National Intelligence, there is still no evidence that Iran is actively working on building a nuclear weapon. Official figures released by both governments indicate that at least 224 Iranians were killed in the Israeli strikes, while Iranian missile attacks claimed the lives of 24 Israelis. Amid the escalating crisis in the Middle East, the Kazakhstan's government swiftly organized the evacuation of its citizens from Iran. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, 109 Kazakh nationals have returned home safely. Let's take a break from geopolitics and end tonight's program on a lighter, more hopeful note. He was born in Kazakhstan but raised under the Texas sun. With an American accent and a Central Asian heart, 18-year-old Sayat Nokerban is taking social media by storm. In just 3 weeks, he gained hundreds of thousands of followers by doing something simple yet powerful, telling the world about Kazakhstan and the region he calls home. From breaking Borat stereotypes to making music in Kazakh, Sayat is becoming a cultural bridge between East and West. New Time reporter Baljan Samigulina sat down with the rising influencer to ask what drives him, what he's building, and why reconnecting with his roots means so much.
Thank you, Sayat, for joining us. It's a great pleasure to have you. It's been 2 weeks since you are back in your historical homeland, Kazakhstan. How does it feel like?
It feels amazing. I'm so happy to be back.
And so you grew up in Texas, and now you are exploring Kazakhstan and in general the Central Asian region to quite big audience, which is among the, as far as I know, 100,000 viewers on your social networks. So how does it feel like, and when did you understand that your personal could bring and could transfer to something global as you are gaining right now?
Yeah, so I've always cared about my culture since a young age. I left Kazakhstan when I was 4 years old, but my mom always taught me to care about the history of our family and how we grew up. So ever since I grew up in Texas, I always knew that there was something missing in my life, and that was the connection to my homeland. And specifically 3 weeks ago, I thought about, what if I started integrating Kazakh content into my social media platform? So I started doing that, and I was able to reach the Central Asian audience of Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and plenty of other Central Asian countries. And with that, I was able to grow an audience, and it's amazing that I get to talk about my own culture and get to show it out to the world.
So did you get all your followers right now within these 3 last weeks?
Yeah, within 3 weeks, I've gained over or close to 200,000 followers across all platforms.
Right.
And yeah, it's been a crazy 3 weeks.
As far as I know, you're also studying in university. What's your life plan so far?
Oh, my life plan so far. So I grew up as a singer, an American singer actually. I'm a pop music artist. But recently I started making Kazakh music. So
yeah, there is a Kazakh song that is releasing this week right now.
Yeah, it's actually releasing tonight. So it's called Kolumda Alsha, which means, take my hand. And I wrote this with my mother while we were making bish parmak at home. So yeah, definitely one of my plans is to try to become a Kazakh singer if I can possibly do that, and hopefully in the future keep pushing the Central Asian culture into the world.
So what is the reaction of Americans or all our foreigners?
Okay, so reactions of foreigners to Kazakhstan right now. So 90% of my following is actually American. So it's very crazy to me that they want to learn about Kazakhstan and other Central Asian countries. So their reaction is usually like, wow, I didn't know that Kazakhstan, a place that I've never heard of before, had these sort of things. I'm showing the architecture, I'm showing the culture, I'm showing the family life. And whenever people see this from America, they're like, wow, I wish we had this in our country. And they're shocked about that. And even when I show the villages, the auls, or whenever I show the beautiful tals, the mountains, and everything else of Kazakh life, they're just incredibly excited to pursue knowledge of Kazakhstan.
But don't you feel pressure that you are actually opening our country to most of the Americans, or it's rather a pleasure?
Honestly, I don't feel pressured at all. So I think that being able to talk about the amount of resources we have, the types of people we have, the camaraderie of our country, it really shows people in the world that hey, we're a big country and we have something to give to the world.
So now, according to your plans, you'll be staying in Kazakhstan for 3 months still during the summer. And what's going to be had after this vacation? Are you going to just go to university and based on your studies, or what else?
Yeah, so cool thing you asked about that. I'm actually very excited to share this. So recently I've started a clothing brand which is surrounding based on the Central Asian themes and patterns from Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, all those other Central Asian countries. And I'm starting this clothing brand to not only keep pursuing the voice of Central Asia, but to keep pushing out Kazakh culture. So after this trip that I have for these next few months, I'm still going to be pushing out content. I still want to be an educator, but not only that, I want to be an influencer. So hopefully in the future, with everything I have going, I can help Western audiences as well as plenty of other audiences around the world learn about Kazakhstan.
We wish you best of luck. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
That's it for today. All the main news about Kazakhstan and Central Asia you can find here. More special projects about our country you can also watch on Silkway TV channel. So stay tuned and see you next week.